Hello, everybody, and welcome to another day of Live at the Waterhole. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and I'll be the voice that you'll be hearing for the next 2 hours. For those of you that have never joined us before, it's a big welcome to you. This is actually a live and interactive show, so yes, it's happening right now, and you can ask me questions. So if you'd like to ask me any questions, if you're watching on YouTube, you can just use the live chat. Otherwise, head on over to X or Twitter, if you still call it that, and use the hashtag WildEarth so we can see your questions. But right now, we're at one of the many cameras we have distributed across Africa, and we are in Cape Town at Stony Point Nature Reserve, and I can't wait to introduce our guest to you. So for those of you that don't know this, every year since 1993, World Water Day has been celebrated on the 22nd of March, which is very, very exciting. So today I have a wonderful guest from I Am Water, Catherine Wallace. Hello, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Well, we can't wait to hear more about the projects that you are involved in and how the rest of the world can get involved with them. But where are you at the moment?
I am in Muizenberg in Cape Town, very close to the sea. It's lovely.
Oh, perfect. I'm envious because I am a coastal girl at heart. I was born on the coast, but I live now in the safari hub of South Africa. So I'm about 20 hours drive away from Cape Town, about 9 hours away from the closest beach on the east coast, and from the southeast coast, about a 17-hour drive. So no ocean for me.
No.
I joke.
Other beautiful things though.
Exactly. And actually Mozambique is not too far away. I think that's only like a 4-hour drive. So I shouldn't be complaining too much. But I am happy that we're in the vicinity looking at Betty's Bay at the moment. So I have a couple of questions for you. I just want to remind all the viewers, if you have got any questions for Catherine, please send them through. We're going to try and keep things all about water, about the ocean, about anything that you can kind of think of, whether you want to ask me some questions or I can direct them straight through to Catherine. So I know a couple of you would have started watching already. But to start things off, Catherine, can you tell me a little bit more about I Am Water and the inspiration behind the organization?
Yeah, definitely. So the story starts quite a long time ago. I Am Water was founded in 2010, and before that, the inspiration for the organization came through our founder, Hanli Prinsloo, who is a ex-record-holding South African freediver, and she had the opportunity to freedive all over the world in incredible marine spaces and interact with a wide variety of different marine animals and just enjoy the ocean in so many different ways. And she always came back to the heart, which was wanting to share that with her country, with South Africans, and wanted to create those feelings of connection with the ocean that she felt when she was exploring in the South Pacific with sperm whales and all these crazy, incredible, big marine animals. She wanted to create that feeling of connection here, specifically in Cape Town. And she started I Am Water with the idea of connecting young people to the ocean so that they can fall in love with it and want to protect it. And in 2010, the idea became a reality, and I Am Water is a registered nonprofit organization and public benefit organization. And we do just that. We connect young people to the ocean, and our idea is that when you are connected to something and love something, you want to look after it. So that's our route to conservation, is through connection. And we do this through snorkel workshops predominantly. We have a few different programs, but our main route for that conservation is through snorkel workshops.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit more about the roots of I Am Water. It really does sound like an amazing project, and I know that everybody that is watching will absolutely agree with you that if you love something, you want to protect it a little bit more. And that's exactly what the show does. We're able to reach out to millions of people across the globe and educate them. So that's really, really great. I'm so excited. It's one of my goals to hopefully one day be involved in more coastal projects. I obviously stick to inland at the moment, but hopefully in the near future I'll be able to branch out and also start raising awareness and hopefully making people fall in love, as you just said. I have got quite a couple of different questions for you, so I'm going to just run through them, and hopefully we'll get some questions from some of the viewers in between, and then we can start chatting about those too. So you've mentioned a little bit about some of the projects that you're involved in, but where are the main projects focused on?
Sure. So our flagship program is our Ocean Guardians workshops, and that happens along the Cape Town, specifically the False Bay coast. And this is a 2-day program that involves snorkeling, exploring the rock pools like this beautiful picture we've got in front of us now, and a beach cleanup combined with a nature walk. And these 2 days happen on the first day at a tidal pool so that kids can explore and snorkel feeling very safe and like they're in a bit more of a familiar environment. And then on the second day, they're in a protected bay area that is not exposed to big crashing waves, but still out in the ocean. And they get to explore a little bit deeper and go into the kelp forest. So that's our flagship. And that's all about ocean conservation and sharing stories about the importance of the ocean so that the kids will want to look after it. We also have our River Guardians workshops, and this is one of our newer programs. It's designed to kind of shine a light on the importance of looking after the entire water table. We don't want to just be focusing in on one aspect. Looking after the ocean also means looking after rivers. Yeah. So this 1-day program is all about highlighting that connection between river health and ocean health and how humans can be a positive aspect and contribution to the health of both of those ecosystems. Then we have our school speaking series. This is by far our biggest reach. We'll have a group of our coaches will go out to schools and deliver a presentation to the whole school assembly at once. And we can reach up to 1,000 kids in one talk, which is really great.
Oh, wow.
A really good opportunity to start to spark an interest in the ocean. This program isn't necessarily the deepest impact, but it's our broadest impact so that we can start getting those ideas of just maybe that the ocean is an interesting place. Start planting those seeds in the kids' minds. We also have an inclusive ocean experience, and this is an adapted version of our Ocean Guardians workshops for children with physical and cognitive disabilities.
Oh, wow.
This is something that's very close to our hearts because we need as many people as possible looking out for the ocean and doing what they can to work towards conservation. And that includes everyone. People with disabilities are also included in that conversation. And yeah, we're very proud to have partnered with St. Joseph's Home for Chronically Ill Children to make that happen. Wow. And then we have something that's our scaling model. It's our way of getting bigger. Here in Cape Town, we are kind of at our maximum. We are reaching loads and loads of kids on all of our different programs that I've mentioned now. And we've started to look further afield into how we can share this message on a national level and even a global level. And that's through our Oceans for All Alliance. We have grassroots organizations with similar mindsets, similar missions and similar goals will come to us for a training, a very in-depth training in how to do what we do, using our ocean connection methodology to create these beautiful experiences for children that make them want to look after the ocean. And we have a few different member organizations. We've got Wild Oceans in KZN, an organization called Grootbos Foundation here also in the Western Cape, and our first inland landlocked organization, Diski 99, have joined the Oceans for All Alliance to run River Guardians workshops.
Oh, wow.
And then last year we went global, which was super exciting. We have an organization from Argentina called Patagonia Azul, and they are also implementing these ocean connection workshops all the way across the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a long list. We've got a lot going on.
But that's really great to hear. I mean, it's sad that it takes me to host the show to find out about some of these, about, for example, this organization, I Am Water. I didn't know about it prior to this, but obviously after a bit of reading and then listening to how you're impacting so many children's lives across, never mind just across the South Africa, now that you're partnering with so many people on a global scale is truly, I suppose, just honestly just amazing. And it is, like you say, with some of the projects, especially, where you've got large groups of children, you're speaking to them, it might be, it's not as in-depth, but I'm sure it's enough to spark that curiosity to want to learn more. And even if it's just a handful of children, who knows, you might inspire some of them to become marine biologists or ocean protectors or water protectors of all kinds. So I suppose everything has its place, which is wonderful. Oh, look, there's a penguin that's just gone into the water now. He's just swimming around. I forgot there's animals here too.
Looks refreshing.
Yeah, I know. I'm sitting here and it's so humid at the moment going, I just want to dive into that water so badly.
Yeah.
Even though it's a bit on the chilly side, I'd take it. I definitely would take it. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to just have... never mind. We've already done a little break. That's all good. Okay, so very, very exciting things going on. You mentioned your coaches earlier, and this kind of sparked my attention. Are these permanent employees, or are these people that just volunteer their time? Because I'm assuming, do you have set dates for the the ocean cleanups and that type of thing, or the 2-day activities that you were talking about?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something we are very proud of. We don't work with volunteers. We have chosen rather to work with coaches from the same communities as the kids that we work with. Oh, wow. And I didn't mention earlier, we only work with low-income and under-resourced communities, and this is a completely free offering. All of our programs are free to the participants. And we work with these coaches. We train them up. We train them in ocean literacy, in child safeguarding, in water safety, all of the tools they'll need to facilitate these workshops. And we have 27 coaches that work on a part-time basis, and we employ them for each workshop that we do. And the workshops happen during school hours. We have been endorsed by the Western Cape Education Department, and we're able to take groups of kids out during the school day. And during those 2 days, we'll spend those 2 days with the same group of children, and the same group of coaches will work for both days and really get an opportunity to be positive role models in the ocean space to these kids. And also it's an income opportunity, skills development, all of those good things. And it's something we're really passionate about. And actually, what I didn't mention when I was talking about our programs is part of our coach development is we co-designed what's the word I'm looking for? An accredited training last year, and we piloted it. It's with Kath Sita, and fantastic. It is called Adventure-Based Learning. And this year-long NQF Level 4 qualification was designed to professionalize our community-level ocean conservationists. We see that they have so many skills and so much to offer, but without a qualification, sometimes different job applications and opportunities might not necessarily see those skills. So we have done this professionalizing of that sector through our adventure-based learning qualification.
Well, congratulations on being the pioneers. Hopefully,
Thank
more and
you.
more organizations will follow in suit and hopefully add on and enhance the program too. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to do a little bit of research about that. That sounds fascinating. We have a question from a viewer named Nara S. And Nara S would like to know, what is the best way to start getting into conservation from your experience, Catherine?
That is such a good question. Specifically talking about ocean conservation, I think the easiest and fastest way to get into it is to just experience the ocean. And maybe in a landlocked area, that's not as easy, but it can still be done through watching nature documentaries, joining talks like this, and just immersing yourself in the ocean space, whether that is physically immersing yourself and going for a swim, going for a snorkel, or if it is watching these beautiful live streams and documentaries. Just experience it, and this will start giving you ideas of ways that you can help. And being immersed in the space also shows you organizations like I Am Water and other amazing organizations doing good work to protect the ocean. And then you can find out how to support them and maybe even start your own initiatives, beach cleanups, so many.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I always say start at home. You can't save the world, but you can inspire people around you to, as you just said, do a cleanup. So if you are in a landlocked country, maybe there's a lake or a river or a dam somewhere where a lot of people, go and explore. And all it takes is to take a rubbish bag of some kind and just pick up litter as you go. So it's literally as easy as that. And then obviously if you want to start it in your neighborhood, maybe around a school, something like that, the more and more people see others doing goodwill, normally will join in. That sort of that monkey see, monkey do, but in a very positive aspect. I know I normally do that. I used to do that with students. I want my students to do something, but instead of having to directly tell them, I'll start doing something. And then normally they're quite curious and come on over, ask about it, and then also start doing it. So you really can just lead by example without having to throw tons and tons of money at any organizations, because we know the reality of that. Most individual people don't have, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to be able to contribute. So that is a cost-effective way to be able to help not only the oceans, but also, just the planet in general. Then we have another question from Harley. They're starting to come in now, which is awesome. Nice. And Harley has asked, does the water temperature have any negative effects on ocean conservation and getting people involved?
In Cape Town, we do have quite a cold ocean. The places where we take the kids snorkeling, it can be anywhere between 14 and 18 degrees on any given day. And that might not sound freezing, but it is really quite cold. And we provide the children 5mm thick wetsuits to wear whilst we take them snorkeling. So on our programs, no, we have taken measures to sort of avoid the freezing cold factor of the ocean. But I don't think that it will have a negative effect. I think the coldness is part of the beauty of the ocean. It's something that makes specifically the water around Cape Town very unique. We've got this icy cold water, but then it can be super hot on land. Yeah. And that's quite an interesting ecosystem to be involved in and be around. And that adds a little bit of interest to it all. I think having ranges of water temperature all around South Africa, actually, where it goes from being really warm and tropical along our east coast and then super cold on our west coast, is all part of what makes our ocean unique and special and important.
Oh, there we go. That's a fantastic answer. I'm assuming you must need sponsorships for wetsuits then, with all the kids.
Yes. Yeah, we have a gear room full of, I think, 100 wetsuits, because we need loads of different sizes.
Yes.
And we have been very generously supported by Reef. They give us
wonderful.
A huge discount on wetsuits.
Oh, that's fantastic. And just randomly, if the public, anybody that's watching, wanted to contribute to I Am Water, how could they do so?
Through our website, imwaterfoundation.org. we have a page that will take you directly to how you can donate. And there's a few different options. You can become a monthly supporter, which is amazing, but equally as incredible is once-off donations.
Yeah.
Even just sharing that page with your community, with your sphere of influence helps us, because the more people know about us and see ways to donate and support us, the better. So even just sharing the link with friends and family is a help to us.
Well, there we go, everyone. It's as simple as that. So I hope you're all sharing it immediately as we speak. I have another question from Penguin Lover, which is fitting with the scene that we have at the moment. And Penguin Lover is asking, what has been your most rewarding moment at I Am Water?
Personally, my most rewarding moment, I've been with the organization for six and a half years now. So I've been around for a while, and I've had more rewarding moments than I can count. But my most rewarding moment was last year when we managed to get our inclusive ocean experiences going. We spent months planning how to make those adapted workshops as beneficial to children with special needs as possible. And the first workshop that we held was such a key moment for me to see this coming to life. It was really incredible to be able to be part of bringing children who are so often overlooked, especially in outdoor activities, physical activities, bringing them to the ocean and showing them that they can snorkel and enjoy the ocean life and just be part of the whole conservation conversation and have their say. That was huge for me. It was very beautiful.
Congratulations. That's great to hear. It must also be so rewarding. I don't know how often you get to go out on these activities, because I know you're probably quite busy behind the scenes, arranging and organizing everything. But how roughly, what would the percentage be of the kids that have never seen the ocean before, and that, you're actually introducing them to it for the first time?
In Cape Town, most of the kids that join us have spent time around the ocean. We actually work with kids that actually live really quite close to the ocean. Some of them can walk to the ocean, but knowing that, it's alarming how many of them can't swim and have a really deep fear of the ocean. In one of our surveys from last year, we came back with the statistic that 89% of our participants can't swim. And they come to the ocean and put so much trust in us with this inability to swim and a deep fear of the ocean. And they come and they let us guide them and facilitate this experience with so much trust. And that is also really rewarding to see how brave each and every child is coming with that background. Many of them have even witnessed a drowning event. So the ocean is not necessarily a very welcoming and safe space for them. And we are trying to change that. We're creating these safe spaces and safe moments in the ocean for them.
Oh, wow, that's really great to hear. I kind of get goosebumps when I heard that 89% of the children that come through can't swim, especially in South Africa. Seen as though we're surrounded by beautiful oceans, and it's free. Everybody should be able to appreciate and explore. And being in the water, I think, is one of the most important things. Not just appreciating it from the land. So that's quite impressive. So hopefully that changes with all the work that you'll be doing.
Yeah.
I'm just quickly looking for some more questions. So Terry has asked, are there any cleanup events that they can join? Terry, I need to know, where in the world are you? Because if you're in the Western Cape, then you'll probably be able to maybe help out, or perhaps, Catherine, you can point out something else. I don't know if there's public beach cleanups, obviously with the focus being on children. Do you have anything that you'd like to say?
Yeah, definitely. Here in Cape Town and around the Western Cape, there's two organizations that do regular cleanups, and that is the Beach Co-op. They do monthly beach cleanups here in Muizenberg at Surfers Corner. and those are really amazing. They do it at the new moon, so it's when the tide is super low, and you can get all the way into the rock pools and make sure you get as much rubbish out as possible. And there's also the Aquarium Foundation, the Two Oceans Aquarium Foundation. They do quite regular trash bashes at various beaches around, I think, actually the whole of South Africa. So if you're in South Africa, then maybe they are the best option. But if you're local to Cape Town, then Beach Co-op is the most regular and really fun. It's a really fun group to join.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I love that, trash bashes. That's such a catchy phrase. I definitely won't be forgetting that, and I can bet that there will be quite a few viewers that will be using that term from now on. Earlier we had a question about just pretty much about water and how temperature change can affect it. But what is water doing, or just in general, how can how are you basically tackling climate change? Is there anything that you are actively working on, or advice to people, or anything about that? My ocean conservation knowledge is not where it should be, because I'm for the most part a terrestrial species and a boreal occasionally.
Definitely. So that's a big question. There's a lot to unpack with that. And I think a good place to start is understanding how marine life is being affected by climate change. And something that we can all see as people on land is our closest connection point to the ocean is the intertidal zone, which is what we're looking at on our screens right now, this area between high and low tide where the land meets the sea. And climate change is going to directly affect that space because of sea level changes, sea level rise. The animals that live in that intertidal zone will have to adapt to different sea levels and different levels of wave action. All of these changes to their ecosystem are going to be things that they need to adapt to. And this is something that we can kind of relate to a little bit better, I find, because we can see it happening. There's huge changes happening out in the deep, deep sea, but we don't necessarily have much understanding of what's going on out there anyway. So we don't know what the changes are. But here on the intertidal zone, that sea level rise and the increased storm activity are things that we can see and have a bit more of an understanding of. And then there's also ocean acidification. Climate change is causing the ocean to be more acidic, and acid is not good for shellfish. So things like snails, mollusks, limpets, mussels, basically anything that grows a shell will really struggle as the ocean gets more and more acidic. And we don't necessarily think of mollusks and sea snails very often, but they form the lower levels of so many of our marine food webs. So if those animals are struggling to grow their shells and maintain their shells, then there will be a cascade through the food web of animals being impacted by climate change. And there are lots of ways that we can help. Water likes to advocate for ways that everyone can help, not higher level things that no matter your age, your income, your cultural background, you can be a part of. And our 3 main conservation tips to help with ocean climate change is to eat less fish if possible.
Okay.
To completely cut out fish is a huge ask and not necessarily realistic. So we encourage people to eat less fish, and when they eat fish, to try and eat sustainably caught fish. This has so many benefits to the ocean because it means there are less pressure on fisheries, which means there might be less fishing vessels going out in the future, which will reduce our greenhouse gases. But also it gives the fish in the ocean a chance to replenish and for those fish stocks to grow. The second way is the reduce, reuse, recycle. And this is something that we can all do in our day-to-day lives. We can use less plastic, we can reuse the plastic that we already have, and we can recycle that plastic when we are done with it. These are things that if we can incorporate them into our habits, it becomes just second nature. And then the last thing is to talk about it. Looking after the ocean and being part of ocean conservation it's a big and quite daunting task. But if we start conversations, have discussions, have debates, and just keep the topic top of mind, then we're already that one step closer to looking after the ocean.
Well, there we go, everybody. Now you know. Actually, I wanted to find out, this is a completely different thing. Are there any protected areas around the Western Cape, like, that prevent these big fishing vessels from coming into the bays? Or is it kind of just a free-for-all?
Yeah, there's lots. We have amazing marine protected areas in the whole of South Africa. South Africa has 42 marine protected areas and counting. Oh, wow. Hopefully there'll be many more moving forward. And these marine protected areas are spaces where there are different amounts of protection in different areas. In some, you are not allowed to fish at all. You are not even allowed to take shells from the beach. It is completely a no-take zone where the whole ecosystem needs to be left exactly as it was when you arrived. And then there are other zones with varying degrees of protection where you're allowed to do certain types of fishing, but not others. And then there are areas that have a lot more freedom where you can do a lot more. And these marine protected areas are really key because they are spaces where those marine animals can thrive and reproduce and just live happy, healthy, long lives and spill over into areas where fishing is allowed. And it's a win-win for the ocean, but also for fisheries, because for a brief period, there may be less availability to fish and to those different fisheries resources, but eventually the stocks will grow and spill over into those other areas.
No, that's awesome. I would like to just remind everybody, because this is something that I think we are all guilty of. So for those of you that don't know the implications of picking up rocks and taking them home, and shells and starfish and all these types of things, I think people forget, and it's because you don't really see it, is the microorganisms and habitats, that are underneath a rock, or the animal that might use an empty shell, and it doesn't seem like much. You're probably going, oh, Taylor, come on, it's just one shell. But if hundreds and thousands of people are picking up rocks and shells and taking them home every single day, you can imagine the impact that it eventually has on an area. So in the bush, we always talk about, you pick up a porcupine quill, it's best to leave it where you found it, have a look at it. It's the same thing when we are opening dung. I try not to kick open dung because of the dung beetles, the flies, and everything else that's living inside of it. It's a whole habitat, a whole ecosystem. So those are just things to maybe keep in mind in the future, and especially teach children about it. I think that's where it's important. If we can get kids to stop doing small things like that, that eventually it will really make a huge impact.
Absolutely. And I think nature as a whole is such a good example of reusing, and that's whole sustainable mindset. We can really take inspiration from nature, because like in the ocean, the shells that you might want to take home and pick up could eventually become sand, that maybe the shell was here on a beach in Cape Town, but it could in a million years' time end up as a grain of sand in the Mediterranean. It's all being cycled through constantly. So there's definitely a lot to be said about enjoying the space for what it is and taking some pictures, but trying to leave those little keepsakes at the beach or at wherever you are.
Exactly. These days we all have a cell phone that has a camera, and a picture will last a lifetime too. Jive Bunny has said that they found that the saddest thing is the huge plastic island in the middle of the ocean. That's quite famous. So I mean, that is really sad. You could probably Google pictures of it. The last stat that I read, which to be honest was a little while ago, is it about 200 million metric tons of plastic that are just floating around in the ocean. as we know it, which is it's quite a scary thought. So again, I think it's important just highlighting what you said about, reducing your plastic intake or making sure that you recycle. And if you're unfamiliar with how to do this, you can literally type it in on YouTube, and there will be thousands of videos of how to get creative and how to reuse plastic. And if you can avoid it, having glass containers. There's so many grocery stores these days all over the world where you don't have to buy your grains in a packet, for an example, or any seeds. You can take your own jar, they weigh it, and you can take it away in your own container. So just making small changes like that, the more and more people we have doing that, again, it's just, it's all for the cause, for the greater good.
Yeah, I think also to add to that, my brain just went completely blank. I had something to add.
Do it all the time. I do that on the show about 10 times in 2 hours. It's so embarrassing.
It's come back. I mentioned earlier how the more we practice reducing and reusing and recycling our plastic, the more it becomes a habit and becomes top of mind. And things like these huge islands of plastic out in the ocean are, for a lot of people, a little bit of the case of out of sight, out of mind. So we don't necessarily think about the plastic bottle that we used yesterday, and then we'll probably buy another plastic bottle today, because we don't see the direct effect of buying this huge amount of plastic every day. But creating these habits and talking about it and telling everyone that you have started this new recycling project at home is all really important to ingraining these actions and habits into our mindsets and our day-to-day lives.
That's all. Yeah, that's it. And I'm guilty of it too. I'm so quick to just throw a plastic bottle away when I can absolutely avoid using one completely. So it's a good reminder to myself to be better. Then
it's also important to remember that it is hard. It is difficult to change our habits, and it takes time, it takes energy. So to also be gentle with yourself, everyone needs to be gentle with themselves around all conservation topics. I think it can get very overwhelming. To just do what you can and not be too hard on yourself when you can't do something.
And this is also true. Thank you. I need that reminder to be kinder to myself in general. Let's jump on to... Okay, there's a question from Nandi, and I'm sure you're going to be repeating a couple of things, but Nandi might have just joined now. And they're asking, how does the changes we in South Africa make impact the rest of the world and the coastlines of Africa?
Wow. In every way. I think the nature of the ocean is that it is such a connected space. What we do here affects the ocean in North America, it affects the ocean in Antarctica. It is all one connected space. So whatever actions we are taking here at home in South Africa will have positive effects on the ocean globally. And that is something that I keep very close to my heart as inspiration to keep doing things locally, because that connected nature of the ocean means that all of our actions are affecting the global ocean, not just our coasts and our local ocean. What was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question was, basically just, and how will those changes in South Africa affect the rest of the coastlines in Africa? So I suppose you pretty much answered it for the most part.
Yeah, I think just remembering that the ocean is all connected. It's not, we have these names for different sections of the ocean. We have the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, Pacific, but it is super important to remember that it's all just one ocean. It's one big blue blob of water that connects our land masses. And doing something here will affect the ocean globally.
Exactly. And Nandi, something else that's really amazing with a conservation like organization like I Am Water, and I don't know if you missed it, but Catherine was telling about all the partnerships that they're forming. So hopefully those partnerships will just keep expanding into other coastal areas within Africa, and similar projects can just be replicated. So I'm sure that's, part of the greater picture.
Absolutely. Yeah. Moving forward, that is one of our programs that we really want to develop and really just scale as far and wide as possible to have different organizations doing ocean connection globally.
So let's change the topic just a little bit. Let's talk fishing. You were mentioning earlier just how there are some areas that are restricted where you aren't allowed to go and fish, and this is something really important. Obviously, the ocean, it belongs to everyone really, but they are, with those protected areas, it's so important to respect the laws and restrictions that are put on in fishing in certain places. So as a fisherwoman, or whatever, however you're fishing, if it's just to catch something and put it on the braai, you must also just make sure you've got the right permits to be able to do so. And it's also your responsibility as an individual to go out and make sure you know which fish are on the red list and which cannot be caught. And then there was a question following just my train of thought there from Wesley. And Wesley has asked which fish species is most affected by overfishing. And I think if we can keep it local, that would be even better.
Yeah. Very specifically to Cape Town, we have the abalone, which is a huge conversation around illegal poaching. This fish species has reduced to, I think, something crazy like 1% of its wild population in the last 20 years. It has been in a severe decline recently. And there are lots of restrictions in place, like it is completely illegal to harvest wild abalone. Yeah. And still, this is a problem that's perpetuating. So that is one species that is really badly affected by overfishing. And then we also get things like our resident reef fish. Reef fish don't swim around the open ocean. They have one home reef that they will spend their entire life at and not really explore further afield. And it's things like red roman, our national fish, galyun, and all those other reef fish that like to stay in one little home base. They are really easy to catch because they don't move around much. They will consistently be in the same place, the same reef, day on day. And those animals are being really badly affected by overfishing just because they are so easy to get. And red roman is on the red list. Yeah. Our national fish, galyun, is also on the red list. For anyone who doesn't know, the red list is the South African Sustainable Seafood Initiative. And they have put together an extensive list of which fish are more sustainable and which to avoid. And it's on a traffic light system of green means it's good to go. Some of our green fish are yellowtail. They are so they swim about the open ocean. They grow really fast. They reproduce prolifically. And then on our red list is the galyun, mussel cracker, those more residential reef fish. And also a little bit less local to Cape Town, but local to South Africa still, is prawns. Prawns are one of the least sustainable fisheries out there. When a net will come up with the goal, like the target species is prawns, only about 4% of what is actually caught in those nets comprises of prawns. The rest is bycatch. And sometimes that bycatch can be used and is sold and is put to use, but sometimes it is also completely put to waste and ends up dead back in the ocean or completely removed from the ecosystem but not used at all.
We've actually got some kids who are now jumping on board, but I want to ask one more question just about abalone, seeing as though we were just speaking about protected species and endangered species. And Spas Lankov was asking, is there any abalone around Betty's Bay or the Stony Point area, and what are the authorities doing to protect it?
There is, and the restrictions around Stony Point and Betty's Bay as a whole are very strict. Even wearing a wetsuit on the beach, you will likely have authorities come and ask you what you plan on doing, with what ocean activity are you going to be doing in your wetsuit. And that is because it is a heavily poached area, and it is quite incredible to see that it is also an area that is well monitored and has a lot of marine rangers are out there looking after it and asking people questions and making sure that they are respecting the space. There's definitely still a lot of abalone in our ocean, but it is nothing compared to what it should be, what those wild populations should be today. And there are loads of really amazing aquaculture projects where abalone are being grown in tanks, and this is super sustainable because it's not being taken out of the wild. So we can still have abalone and enjoy abalone if that is what you want to do. Going through the aquaculture route is a much more sustainable option than any wild caught abalone.
Oh, so Spas, just as we have anti-poaching units patrolling in the air, on foot or by vehicle, and quite often also using drones, similar objectives will be for the marine guardians as well. And I growing up on the coast and from the Eastern Cape, where there is thick abalone poaching. I remember as a young girl, and even just recently I was in St. Francis, and I couldn't believe how many little boats were out at night, gathering around the rocky areas. So that's how most people do it. They'll go out on these small boats with scuba gear, and they fill their bags, and they'll sometimes leave the bags with the abalone in it and come and fetch it at another time. But it's quite something. And in fact, that was the first poaching that I was ever introduced to as a young girl. A lot of people would have thought it would have been like rhino poaching and that type of thing. But growing up, that's what I first saw, was people just literally taking from the oceans, which was very, very sad. And I mentioned that there were some kids that have joined. Ella had actually asked, but we've kind of already answered this, but Ella was wondering about more, endangered animals in the ocean. And obviously, speaking of abalone is a great one. Is there any others that you could think of that Ella would maybe be interested in? She's only 12 years old.
Awesome. Hi, Ella. Our West Coast rock lobster is another animal that is under a lot of fishing pressure, and that is, a lot of South Africans will refer to that as crayfish. And they have also gone under huge fishing pressure historically, recent history, not long ago history. Lots of people have been harvesting West Coast rock lobsters, and they're very easy to catch because they live between little rocks on the rock pools on the beach. They don't swim around fast. You can just reach in and grab one from between the rocks. And so they're easy to get, which means a lot of people have been collecting them. They're also very tasty, so people like to collect them. And the way that they are now managing this overfishing of West Coast rock lobster or crayfish is through very limited harvesting days. So they have what's called fishing seasons, and they'll close that season to collect crayfish for most of the year, and then only open it for very brief periods throughout the year. And this helps the crayfish populations to grow and to just live normal crayfish lives without pressure of being harvested and collected.
Wow, that's awesome. So Ella, I hope you learned a thing or two there, and maybe if you're in the area of the Western Cape, you can go out and maybe try and find some of these lobsters. And then we've got another question from Shelby, who's also 12 years old, and she would like to know, Catherine, where your love for the ocean started.
My love for the ocean started right at the very beginning when I was still inside my mom's tummy when she was pregnant with me. We lived in Cape Town. We lived in a place called Fish Hoek, which has a beautiful beach, and she would go swimming there throughout her pregnancy with me. And I'm pretty sure that already then I was falling in love with the ocean. And I've been really lucky and really privileged to have a family that prioritizes spending time in nature and spending time in the ocean. So my whole life I've been snorkeling, swimming, exploring the ocean, and being encouraged to spend as much time in the ocean as possible. So for me, my love for the ocean feels like part of who I am. It's just something that I've always had, and I'm so grateful to my family for instilling that in me. But I don't think that is to say that I couldn't develop a love for the ocean later in life. I think you get people who like me, the ocean, as long as they can remember, but then you get people who kind of find their way to falling in love with the ocean a little bit later on. And both of those paths are equally as beautiful, I think.
I completely agree. I'm terrified of sharks. I have like this love-hate relationship with the ocean. I know that's completely irrational because I'm a trails guide and I walk in environments where I can bump into lions and buffalo and, everything else in between. So I think I need to come for some lessons on shark training and understand their behavior a bit better so I'm not so terrified and just about walk on water when a piece of seaweed touches my leg. So.
You're not alone.
It's quite embarrassing though. And I tell people that, like, I get, everyone's quite shocked. They're like, really, Taylor? Like, we've seen you walking with all sorts of other animals. And I'm like, okay. And I try and normally avoid that question. Then there was a question, actually, which is, I'm quite curious to hear your opinion of this. So it's from Jacob. And Jacob has asked, is catch and release fishing a sustainable way to go?
I think my answer is yes and no.
Mine too.
I'll start with the no because it can damage the animal. The animal often gets harmed during catch and release. But I'm leaning a lot more heavily towards yes because it is a way for people to still fish and still get the enjoyment from fishing as an activity. And it is also in its own way a way of connecting with the ocean and learning about the ocean's animals. You get so close to those animals when you catch a fish and release it. You have to really handle that animal and learn about it as you are releasing it. So no, because sometimes it can harm the animal, but mostly yes, because I think it is still important to acknowledge that people want to do these activities and engage in the ocean in that way. And it's definitely the best option, I think, when it comes to fishing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've grown up fishing, mostly catch and release and, occasionally for the pot, of course, no big trophy fishing or anything along those lines. But Jacob, maybe something that you could look at if you are into fishing is perhaps find an organization that also tags fish, that legally tags fish, and that are also then contributing positively towards, the conservation and preservation of marine animals. That might be a nice alternative too. And then you could be in the hands of experts that can just, elaborate a little bit more about a particular species rather than, if you're just catching them on your own. I know that's not always possible, but maybe, something to think about.
It's a great point.
And then Nara S has come through with another question, and they have asked if there are any coastlines you would love to still visit and get involved in.
Absolutely. The place I would love to go to is Antarctica, and I think that is a huge goal and a dream for me personally. I can definitely answer that question for Iron Water as well. But for me, Catherine, Antarctica is where I would love to go and explore and see what projects I could possibly be part of and help. And then for Iron Water specifically, our work is with these under-resourced and low-income coastal communities. So any space globally where we can reach communities just like that and introduce them to the ocean and help them to fall in love with the ocean is somewhere we would love to be. So yeah, the world is our oyster, and we would love to just be in as many places as possible.
So one of my things that I always try and do is visit different coastal towns when I travel for work. I'm very lucky. I travel, to many different wilderness areas, and thankfully some of them are on the fringes of coastlines. Have you ever been to Kenya or Tanzania? Oh, actually, more specifically, have you been to Kenya and seen the coastlines there?
No, I haven't. I haven't actually explored much other than South Africa's coast. A little bit of Namibia, but that's about it.
I would highly recommend it. It's so beautiful. I mean, the sand is so white. And fine. It squeaks, and the waters in some sections, or most sections of Kenya, there's no waves, so it's really easy. You can just chuck on a pair of fins and a snorkel, and off you go. And there are beautiful reefs all around. Obviously, there's a lot of marine conservation, a lot of marine parks, as it's one of the biggest draws to tourism, which is really great. And then another place that I would highly recommend visiting that's affordable as a South African is Sri Lanka. The beaches.
I have been there.
Have you been to Sri Lanka?
Amazing. Yeah.
Which coastal destinations did you go to?
I was in Hikkaduwa and Gaul.
Okay, very nice. I've been to both of those areas. I spent about 2.5 weeks, almost 3 weeks, just traveling, just doing the coasts, which was great. Only I didn't get to the East Coast though, because the wrong time of the year while I was there. But I was so surprised as well. I would like to see more marine protection going on into those areas. I worry about tourism, and I saw lots of people standing on coral reefs, which freaked me out. And but that was another place where I just literally stepped into the water and looked down and saw turtles and all sorts of crazy fish, which was amazing because I just haven't particularly found that in South Africa. But I think I've been going to the wrong places, and perhaps it's my fear of sharks that have kept me out of those waters.
Possibly. I do also think that there are so many crazy, amazing coastlines and places to visit globally, but we definitely need to focus in on South Africa as well. Yes. Our whole coastline is so diverse and so incredible, and maybe it's not looking down and seeing turtles, but it is looking down and being able to see a piece of kelp that can sustain more than 1,000 other organisms, and just seeing our coast for what it is. I think definitely globally there's so much to offer, but also we as South Africa and our coast has so much to offer as well, and is definitely worth exploring and enjoying just as much.
I'd absolutely love to go out and explore the kelp forests in and around Cape Town. That's my goal. So we haven't got much time left. We've only got a couple of minutes. So I have one last question for you, Catherine. Out of all the coastal areas in South Africa, and I know you might be a bit biased being based in the Western Cape, but where is your favorite beach and why?
That's very difficult.
They're all so different, right? They've all got something different to offer, which makes it tricky.
Yeah. I think my favorite beach is in a very small town called Grootmond, and it's in the Western Cape. It's near Mossel Bay. And it's not necessarily a beach so much as it is a space along the rocky shores. So kind of like what we're looking at now. And it's got these huge rock pools that you can swim in. They're like swimming pools, and they're full of life, and the water's nice and cold, which is just how I like it. And I think it's so close to my heart because it's where I spend holidays with my family, and it's just full of so many beautiful memories. I think if anyone is looking for somewhere in the Western Cape to explore the ocean that isn't Cape Town, I would recommend Grootmond and just anywhere along the garden route. It's very beautiful there.
I completely agree with you. I'm a big garden route fan. So that's awesome. That's a great answer. I've actually never even heard of this small town before, so I've just written it down,
It's
and I'll be doing
tiny.
some researching and planning my next beach holiday specifically there. So hopefully I bump into you, Catherine, as you walking along the rocky shores. But thank you so much for imparting your knowledge on us today. Nikki said thank you so much. They've really learned a lot. And I think you've opened the eyes of a lot of people. And yeah, obviously the work that's being done by I Am Water is fantastic. So thank you once again for joining.
Thank you for having me. And definitely come visit and we'll help you with that fear of sharks.
I'm going to take you up on that offer. So everybody, I know you're all waving goodbye to Catherine, but remember, go head on over to I Am Water website, check them out. Maybe you are able to help donate or any other, projects that maybe you can kind of get involved in. And then, of course, follow them on social media. But thanks again, Catherine, and we hope to have some chats with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye. There you go, everybody. How great was that? Catherine Wallace from I Am Water. What a fun chat. I definitely learned a lot. There's some things that I need to improve my knowledge on, but that was truly a lot of fun. Isn't that great? Now I'm wondering now that we've finished yapping away, if we're able to turn the sound up a little bit. I'd like to hear the crashing waves of the ocean, because I've been staring at them and imagining the sound in my head. And then we're gonna head over to one of the other cameras. But I just have to hear there we go. I needed to hear that sound. So I'm just gonna take a moment, just 5 seconds, to listen to the waves. Wow. I feel like that was necessary after the chat that we just had. And this is the sound that I absolutely miss so much. And the smell of the salty sea. Okie dokie, thank you, penguins, and the rest of the marine life around Stony Point. It was great. And sorry we didn't pay too much attention to you, but we will at some point. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to head on over to Oldonyo in Kenya and see what's happening around the waterhole. Oh, how unusual to see a giraffe at Oldonyo. They've been the animals that have been gracing us with their presence over the last couple of days that I've been hosting live at the Waterhole. Yesterday we had a great entanglement of giraffe, and I'm hoping that we'll get something of that again later. And then yesterday I was saying to you, with the big clouds that we're building and the very prominent rain in the distance, that I wondered how much water would top up at Oldonyo, but it looks like it's a little bit less, or am I going crazy? We'll have a closer look. But just remember the cameras do have a slight delay on them. But let's just see. I might be imagining it. I also didn't take any pictures or screenshots, so it'll be a bit difficult. But just from, it doesn't look like it's as high as it was. And I said to you that they may have stopped pumping water into this pan just because they don't want it to overflow all the time. No, actually I think it looks a little bit less, but maybe not by much. So with all the rain that's around at the moment, I don't think it's going to take too much to just keep it topping up. And then Nadine, who's directing live at the Waterhole at the moment, said that there were actually lots of elephants having a drink a bit earlier today, so we might have just missed them. The elephants have changed their drinking times. We need to inform them of live at the Waterhole so that we can catch them here. You can see lots of butterflies just flittering around as they usually do. Lots of little flying creatures that I'm not able to identify. I'm just keeping an eye out now for some interesting birds, but nothing just yet. There was a dove of sorts a moment ago, but it's now flown away. I see Jive Bunny has actually just mentioned that 1 ton, which is one of the famous tuskers of this region, was at the Waterhole this morning. Pity. I haven't seen any big tuskers around for ages, but like I said, it's just, luck of the draw as to when the animals come down and have a drink. They might not, because it's maybe not as hot now. They don't need to consistently quench their thirst and cool themselves off during the middle of the day. Hello. Oh, there we've got the straw-tailed wider again, just sitting right up at the top. And I found, oh, by the way, I found my book. So now I can find the Old Daniel page. I found it this morning, funny enough. But I have yet to add my birds. But now I have to. What else have I got here? Yes. At one time I did an astronomy presentation with Ben. And I'm sure you all remember Ben. Okay, we've got Tembi, we've got Campus Dam, Okokuyo, Old Daniel. There we go. And now I need a pen probably as well. Okay. Oh no, Old Daniel, come back. Oh, sorry everyone, just a little bit of a glitch. Okay, Old Daniel, that's not my actual list. I feel like I have another bird list somewhere. We'll just write it here anyway. So, straw-tailed wider. We also had cutthroat finch. Was that yesterday that we had some cutthroat finch? No, not yesterday, the day before. Nadine is commenting, saying that she thinks that this is this bird's favorite spot. Yeah, I mean, it's very clever tactic of this male wider here. Sit near a waterhole where animals are, well, other birds specifically, he's not obviously interested in other animals, but potentially where, you're going to have gatherings of widers, because they are social birds. So you might find a group of females nearby coming to quench their thirst. And why not be standing out nice and tall, displaying to everybody? And that would be a really good way to attract the girls. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to go back to Stony Point now, because it seems like some of the mammals that live around the rocks are showing their faces. Never mind, I believe the Dussies at Stony Point actually just vanished. So the directors are in mission control in Johannesburg will let me know when they've got another view of them. I unfortunately don't have a visual of all the cameras. I just see what I'm told to. But you know what we're going to do? Hang on, you've got to give me just a moment. I need to scroll, and because we've also got a couple of clips that we can have a look at while it's a bit on the quiet side. So not only do we have the privilege of viewing wildlife while it's live, but on days like this where it does get a bit on the quiet side, we can have a look at some interesting clips from the past week. We're at Old Daniel, so we might as well stick here. Let's have a look at a serval that comes for a drink at this waterhole. There we go. We have a serval cat. They're beautiful. Very easy to identify. You can see those lovely long legs, very powerful hindquarters, and a much shorter tail than you'd see with a domestic cat. Also huge ears. And already it's starting to snarl at something. So it's unhappy. Did you see that just briefly? And it keeps looking back off to the left. Now just having a drink of water. It's quite daunting again for any of these animals to come out and expose themselves in the open like this. So they've got to, keep their wits about you, which is why the serval is lifting its head regularly. I think it's heard something. Look at the tail as well. Oh, there we go. I don't think that's what initially was upsetting the serval. As you can see, it's fluffed itself out a little bit. Its tail's got quite fluffy. And here we have a black-backed jackal. And of course, They're just nosy. They always just like to come around and have a look, see what else is happening. That was quite an interesting clip. It's always nice to see two predators or just any animals of various species interacting with one another. I think that jackal was quite wise to keep its distance, because I would not like to have tortured by a serval. Just using the tree to stay nice and cool. But giraffe, we've seen so many of you lately, and I love you, but we're going to change it up a bit and head back down to South Africa, to Olifants West Game Reserve, and maybe do a bit of birding at Rosie's Pan. No, here we are at Rosie's Pan now, and it's nice and, well, it's a bit humid, but in terms of temperature, I really can't complain today. It's nice and cool and overcast, and Olifants West Game Reserve is literally just a stone throw away from where I'm sitting right now. I always joke and say if I sneezed, the elephants would probably be able to hear me. But this is my favorite corner, and we have seen some phenomenal birds just around this little spot. And I just think it's such an inconspicuous place to do a bit of birding, because it doesn't look like, you know, the best habitat where you're going to see a lot of things, but we'll give it a chance and see if anything comes down. It could be a bit tricky just because, like I said, it isn't so hot, but I see the clouds are starting to, I don't think they'll completely burn away today, but they're really starting well, the sun's starting to shine through now, so that might encourage some more life around this waterhole. And you can see how all the vegetation is just gone. Look at it, all flattened, all grazed already. That's normal. This is typically what we see around waterholes. It's the area that gets demolished first. And even with the little bit of rain that we've been having in the evenings, sadly, it's not nearly enough to really green up in this area. We need a bit more. But I'm going to check the weather because I think tomorrow they're predicting rain. Well, it looks like from tomorrow we might have not a lot, but rain scattered throughout the day. So fingers what they're predicting kind of doubles. We need a good 100 mil downpour in the Lowveld. Hi, canary. We've got a canary. I'm going to let you all try and identify this one. So if you know which canary species this is, let me know. Hashtag WildEarth on X or Twitter, or you can comment away on the YouTube chat. But you're going to have to be quick. So some things to take into consideration if you are trying to identify this bird. Maybe you have a bird app, or perhaps you have a bird book with you. Case occurs in, but just remember, you can't look at a canary species that occurs in the Western Cape, for an example. You need to make sure that it is in the Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. Very obvious identifying features are those black facial markings, especially the one that kind of goes down where the cheek is. And so if you've got a book open, you can look, and the yellow canaries kind of look similar, but there's one that really stands out. Okay, we've got the first answer that I've seen, and it's from Julian Thomas. Says it is a yellow-fronted canary. Well done. That is correct. So the thing about yellow-fronted canaries is something that kind of just helps me with the identifying features is that they're just kind of quite dark in color. Sorry, I was also moving my beverage away from my computer, so you probably heard the ice going. I have to have ice in everything and hood spray. So look at how dark the back is. Like I said, it's got that black stripe that kind of goes across the eye, one that goes down past the cheek, and then the crown is nice and dark too, so the patch on top of its head. So a yellow-fronted canary is right. Maybe you could have thought it is a yellow canary. They've got similar features too, but they just look a lot lighter in coloration, and they do have a similar distribution as well. But if you look at if you compare the pictures, you'll see that the yellow canary looks like it's just faded is probably the best way to put it. Those black markings across the eye and down the cheek are not nearly as prominent as the yellow-fronted canary. Hornbill's fighting outside now. Go away. Go fight out there. Oh, one has caught a grasshopper. That explains it. So we see these little birds. We quite often see them in groups, in flocks together. They'll socialize with lots of other birds, but right now we're just looking at one individual, and there's not much sexual dimorphism between males and females, so it's a little bit difficult to tell you which one is, if it is a male or if it is a female. But can you hear all the other little birds that are starting to chirp? I can hear some waxbills. There we go. So that's good, because when we first arrived at Rosie's pan, there really wasn't much chatter at all. It was very quiet. So this means that there's a small group of birds that are starting to move through here. And hopefully that small group will entice even more birds to come through and have a drink together. So we'll go back to our favorite spot where the rock and the log is and see if they've made their way down. Let's have a closer look. Let's go back to where that rock and the log is. And then what we can do is we can just zoom in on that area. And then maybe we see some little birds coming down to drink. There we go. I can already see two little birds, 3 birds, and 4 of them. And they are blue waxbills. You can identify them quite easily by their call, but now they've all just flown off. But we'll be patient because they want to come down for a drink. They might just sit in the trees, this tree line on the water's edge, just to make sure that it is safe. Something obviously startled them before they come back down to have a drink again. You can see how they immediately stopped singing too. You don't want to be shouting out and about if there is a predator. So they're the waxbills again. Thank you for listening and doing exactly what I said you'd do. It's always helpful. Are we just having a drink, or is there going to be a bit of bathing involved? For the moment, it looks like they don't really even want to get their feet wet. Quick drink, and off they go again. I'm hoping that we can get some other smaller birds, maybe some different firefinch species would be great. Or the buntings that we regularly see. Maybe even quelias would be a nice addition to this birding hotspot. see how productive this little area is. We've got a Swainson spurfowl. We've got cinnamon. It looks like cinnamon breasted. Are they cinnamon or golden breasted buntings? I can't really see too well. And starlings. It's also a bit tricky to see which starlings those are. Oh, there we go. Golden breasted bunting. I can see that much better now. Thank you very much. Just having a drink. Petite little birds. And then the starlings are either Cape starlings or greater blue-eared starlings, but with the light at the moment it's a bit tricky. And then of course we also had the Swainson spurfowl that is on the right, which is one that I haven't seen here before, so I also have to add that to the birds of Rosie's pad. So let's have a look at the starling. This looks like a Cape starling. I can't really see those dark coverts on the ears. It also doesn't have a very prominent eye color, which makes me think that maybe it's a youngster that has fledged this year. Also a good opportunity to see size differences between the Swainson's spurfowl, the yellow-fronted canary, and the golden-breasted bunting, all lined up quite nicely. Oh, little hop. And then Spas Lankov, we've asked what species of starlings and spurfowl are found here. So it will pretty much be the same species that you could find at Djuma. So we've got the Swainsons. You'd also see Natal spurfowls, and then starlings. Sorry, you can hear Tucker, who and we now call Tucker Hufflepuff because he does this weird thing where he doesn't really bark particularly loudly, which always makes me chuckle. Sorry, everybody. I just had to quickly disappear just to see who Tucker was barking at, but it is all good. He does this thing where he's big and scary, but yeah, Hufflepuff has gone to go and sit down now. Shane, you've asked which, if any, of these birds are migratory. So the birds that we were looking at, the blue waxbills, the golden-breasted bunting, the Swainson's spurfowl, and the variety of starling species. So I think there was also a greater blue-eared starling at one point. These are all residents, so they don't go anywhere. They stay here all year round. But birds that we could potentially see that are migratory, that would, maybe come around this area, we can maybe see, or we have actually seen the European bee eaters. Sometimes we hear them. We have seen them also swooping down to drink water and then to plunge bath. Also, the European roller is another good one. And then something as simple, a bird, our summer migrant, which is a woodland kingfisher. But they aren't Palearctic migrants, so they're not traveling big oceans. They are just staying in Africa and pretty much moving around there. But it won't be too long before they start heading back. I'm starting to hear less and less of the woodland kingfisher. I've been hearing a lot of striped kingfishers and brown hooded kingfishers calling at the moment. They normally go quite quiet when the woodland kingfishers are around. But if I think of anything more, there's loads and loads of birds that of course are migratory, so we'll keep an eye out and see if we can find any of them. I love that spurfowl is now just resting in the shade under the log. Nigel, no frames. I can hear lots of chirping in the background. We'll be a bit patient. And maybe we get another bird party that comes around. There we go. I can see a couple of birds just landed in the trees to the right. I think it's more blue waxbills. And so you've said that maybe that spurfowl will come back and have a drink. Potentially. Maybe it's just not finished yet. It would be great if it could also come out and spend a bit more time. They don't normally hang around the water's edge for too long. They, come in, have a drink, and then off they go. It was interesting that it's still hanging around. But time will tell what it gets up to. You also see some ripples in the water, maybe from terrapins or some of the fish species that will be living in here. There it is. Hello. There's a small family of Swainson's spurfowls that come into my garden, but the chicks have grown up so much now they almost look like the adults, and they hesitantly jump through the fence and then come and try and find crumbs of all sorts. They also pick up all the insects that were flying around at night. I have so many insects, so many grasshoppers all the time. So it's great because they'll just come and do a quick cleanup between them and the hornbills. They really are fantastic birds to have around. Also nice to have a close-up. We don't often get to appreciate these birds on the live safaris just because we know how birds react when they see the vehicles. Once they've been spotted, they panic and they move off. But because this bird is none the wiser with this camera, we have that wonderful opportunity to really inspect it. And that lovely sort of red mask that it has across its face. So there's no feathers there. That's just facial skin that you are looking at. And then the same thing, extending below the beak and down towards the throat. There's not really many birds that you can get a Swainson spurfowl confused with. But again, if you've got a bird book, oh, there's something that's landed. What are you? You're slightly bigger. It's just hopping. I think it's also going to come down to have a drink. Is the what am I trying to say here? The red-necked spurfowl. But if you have a look at the distribution, it's not anywhere near where we are. It's more down on the southeast coast of South Africa. Okay, there's a couple of birds that are drinking. Are they sparrows, maybe? You can see there's lots of birds that have just flown in, so... No, come back. What we'll do is we can maybe just hold our position and see if they come back down. It's always tricky. Well, you can hear the oxpeckers for sure. And you said that the Swainson spurfowl looks like a small exotic turkey. Very small one, they're not very big at all. I love that though, that was quite funny. And then of course Justin Wright with the jokes as usual, but I'm going to share it with all of you. Justin has asked, why is dark spelt with a K? And the answer to that is because you can't see in the dark. Ha 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 ha. I like that one. I now need to go and find some children or adults with my sense of humor, and they'll probably enjoy that. But it made me chuckle. Thank you, Justin. I can't believe that spurfowl's still just standing there. Obviously just having a rest. Two birds rest for a fair amount of the day. Nice cozy little spot. It's actually quite a nice shelter there because of how the log sort of is, well, I suppose it's the way that the log, when it was a tree, had grown, but it creates a bit of shelter behind it, so it doesn't necessarily have to worry about what's coming from behind. And if something were to walk out of the tree line, the chances of it actually seeing that bird are slim to none. So it just has to worry about what's coming towards it. And you can actually hear the European bee-eaters chatting in the distance, probably flying above the waterhole, catching all sorts of insects. And it looks like a lot of the birds have actually moved off now. And just that Swainson spurfowl just still slinking around. You can see it's actually looking up into the trees. Another good area to do a bit of birding is the side that we're heading to now. There's a small amount of kind of like reeds. There we go. Maybe we can have a look around that section and see if any of the birds are visiting on that side of the waterhole. Dark Mane Lover, you're just showing your appreciation today. It's only a pleasure. I love hosting these shows. I love having chats with all of you. Let's see what other questions we've got coming through. Sadly, the birds don't look like they want to play ball on this side of the waterhole. Can hear them. A bird that I am looking out for is one of Luyanda's favorites. So Luyanda's now direct, and that bird is a green-winged patilia. I also love them. They make one of my favorite bird nests, but they're always so difficult to photograph. And while I was in Botswana a couple of weeks ago, I was watching a green-winged patilia literally sit right in front of me and tease me. And every time I grabbed my camera, it would fly away. And then I left my camera on my lap and tried not to make too much movements. And it was just tormenting me for about an hour. So eventually I gave up before I tossed my camera into the bush. So it was, the best decision for the bird and for myself. So I just appreciated it. I didn't even need a pair of binoculars. So as we scan around here, this will be a good place to hopefully find them. But again, just like with the waxbills and the buntings and the canaries, they like to socialize with other birds and feed in a group. There's an old dilapidated weaver's nest. Could still be used by a bunch of other bird species and maybe some insects. I've seen wasps will sometimes make their nests in old weaver nests, which is quite clever. And then that cutthroat finch that we were watching yesterday at Old Daniel, because we do see those species around here too, they would love to use those nests. Nothing goes to waste. Oh no! Oh my god, everybody, sorry about that. But here's quite an interesting scene of the pair of Egyptian geese with their goslings that has grown so much, and of course a water monitor just in the background. Not bothering the birds though, the Egyptian geese seem completely unfazed by its presence. You can see the monitor's now raised its head a little bit, also just scanning about. I don't know if I would, especially being a reptile that can't just, you know, flap its wings and take off like the Egyptian geese would be able to do. But with the amount of fish eagles and other birds of prey that hang around here, I would stick to the shadows. Or even in the water, where at least they are able to dive down below the murky surface. Not just kind of slinking away. And if you're wondering about the monitor lizards that were plaguing my house, touch wood, I haven't seen any for a while. I think I've managed to remove all of them and they got the picture. Really not worried at all. I mean, could this monitor lizard move any slower? It's looking a bit better though, heading into the taller grass. Okay, thank you, Monitor Lizard. That was quite nice. But let's head over to Rosie's as some more life has arrived at the water's edge. Oh wow, look at this kudu bull. Oh, look at the beautiful reflection on the water too. Well, the first time I've seen a big kudu bull come down and have a drink. Not obviously in my life, but at this pan. Nice to have a lot of firsts at the different water holes. Sandy Franklin, you've said that I mustn't forget to pet Tucker for you. He's now passed out outside. All the huffing that he did earlier has really taken it out on him. And in fact, he keeps coming around every now and then, very annoyed because I haven't taken him on a walk yet. But I'm also just like, it's not walk time. He forgets. He's dreaming though. I'm watching him outside. He's probably dreaming that he would be chasing a kudu. No, he's actually really good. He doesn't chase wildlife. I worked very hard to make sure of it. He doesn't chase the birds. The only thing I let him chase are the vervet monkeys and the kelp gulls that you see on the beach because they like to mob him. So I'm like, you can chase them. This is such an impressive kudu bull. He's got beautiful splay of horns. And just so relaxing to just watch him drink. But as you can see, not quite breeding season for the kudu bulls at the moment. Because when it is, you'll just see how they pack on the muscle. And they just look even more impressive. There we go, beautiful set of horns. And there he goes, had his drink and off he goes. But thank you so much everybody for a fantastic show. I hope you all enjoyed today. Ralph will be on live at the Waterhole tomorrow. So I will see you next month at some point. But in the meantime, have fun, keep learning, and enjoy all the sightings that come your way.